We all wish to be more proactive, more strategic, and on top of things when we get out of our respected branches. However, as we've learned from experience, we have to play military until the last day we are in that uniform. At least that was my experience and today's guest's experience. But imagine a service member being able to have the opportunities to gain the individual self-awareness to be more proactive versus reactive. And also major organizations tapping into military-grade skill sets sooner. That and much more from an African-American man's perspective on life post-military.
Because corporate America is nothing like the military. Corporate America is, it's just nothing like that. So I wanted to so that's what I was thinking, like, let's create more time for these guys to actually prepare. And because, like I said, we know the 6 Ps. You know what I mean? And that's very true. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so, and I want soldiers to succeed. What's the purpose, right? No one goes to serve their country to come home, to be homeless, to be jobless.
We wanted to start 2021 off with a bang by showcasing a new partnership within our network that will provide more firepower for everyone's mission here, which is to tackle the deadly statistics that we're going to continue to unpackage the rest of the show, like job loss, suicide, mental health, depression, homelessness, and the list could easily go on. Bottom line is, military suicides have increased by 20% during COVID times. Well, the good news is Combine Arms, Combat Flip-Flops, and the Ambitious Vet Network have come together for a good cause for our souls. Literally, both partnerships we have worked with personally and experienced their execution and seen their impact. If you want to learn more about Combine Arms, go check out episode 80, Accelerating the Response to Resources for Military Veteran Leaders with John Bursler. If you want to check out more about Combat Flip-Flops' cause and their innovative tools and how they were invested by Mark Cuban, go back and check out episode 82, Creating Opportunity in the Midst of Chaos with Matthew Griffin. Again, they've combined forces with us to create a 2-week campaign that, with your help, Ambitious Vet, we can create a triple win for all parties involved. 15% will go towards the Ambitious Vet, 15% will go towards Combine Arms efforts, and the rest will go to the impacts that Combat Flip-Flops is having. They're introducing a Combat Flip-Flops limited edition Combine Arms Flopperator. Only 200 are in existence, and they're loaded with good karma for you, Ambitious Vet, to walk with purpose. Great thing about it is lifetime warranty, proprietary rubber outsoles, proprietary EVA mid layers, and also it has a great cause. It funds 1 day of school for an Afghan girl, and much, much more. That link will be in the show notes below. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet Podcast. My name is Chris Hoffman. I'm a Marine Corps combat veteran turned social entrepreneur. Here, I dive into the trenches with today's most ambitious, goal-oriented, and growth-minded military veterans on the planet to empower you with the golden grenades needed to break through new levels of satisfaction, fulfillment, and success after stability is no longer a challenge to overcome. Now, Ambitious Vet, I got to give you a quick disclaimer. We do say we do say you knows, but just like life, it isn't perfect, and even the military life was not perfect. So we value authenticity, right? So do yourself a favor, listen for the golden grenades throughout this show, and I promise you, your next mission will be happening before you know it.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life's fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? We're right back inside the trenches today with Cornelius J. Maxwell. He's a motivational speaker, a veteran advocate, and business consultant. His advocacy began after serving 8 years and 3 combat tours during Operation Iraqi Freedom and in the United States Army. Mr. Maxwell is known for his transition units theory, concept, and bill proposal, which provides his solution for veteran PTSD, homelessness, unemployment, and assists veterans towards acquiring earned benefits. And recently, he just launched his best-selling new book called Unapologetically, I Am a Man, which has been ranked on Amazon's top 106 categories over the past month or so, Ambitious Vet. So if you are saying, hey, how do I learn more about Cornelius Maxwell? Go and check out his website and learn more about how he's advocating for African-American culture, providing more inspiration, and also advocating for veterans at www.mrmaxwell.com. Cornelius, man, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here. How you doing?
Hey, brother, I'm good, man. I've been looking forward to this interview, man, because every time I'm talking to you, I feel like you've done probably 10x of things since the last time I spoke to you, because you're always in the trenches hustling and grinding, man. So please catch me up on some of the things you've been doing and fill the gaps inside the introduction.
Oh, man. First, I'd like to say thank you for having me on your show. Like I said, we have a great conversation. We've been good friends for a good minute now, But, I thank your audience for having me and investing their time in hearing what I have to say and what we have to say, because, their time is an investment. And so I truly appreciate that, first and foremost. Secondly, things about me right now, like I said, I've been working on transition units theory. I pitched it at the, Arizona House Military Veterans Affairs Committee, which is at the state level, wrote the bill for it. And now I'm working on pushing that to the federal level. And because of that, I've been nominated for a 2021 Vetty's Award. And
Nice.
So, in leadership for the transition units theory. So when y'all go to the AUSV.org website and vote for transition units theory for the 6th annual Vetty's, which is in May, March. Matter of fact, voting ends March 1st.
Oh,
so
okay.
Please vote for that. Like I said, our goal is to help 2 million plus veterans with PTSD, homelessness, unemployment, help them get their benefits quicker, and as well as help them with entrepreneurship. And like I said, our approach is a proactive approach and not a reactive approach. Well, of course, my book, which is entitled Unapologetically, I'm a Man, which was inspired by MLK, Martin Luther King Jr.'s his last protest, I am a man. And I was just inspired. And then 2020 was just a year, everything just fell into place, divine timing. I prayed about divine timing, everything happened because this is my first book. I had no idea how to write a book, and everything just fell in place. So it was just divine timing how that all worked in my favor. So, like I said, and I've been scaling my motivational speaking towards, like I said, veterans advocacy, which I've been doing, as well as race relations trainer, at the corporate level and workshops and conferences and stuff like that. So I'm scaling as well for the race relations. So
busy, man. Busy.
Sure.
Brother, I think what I love most about you too, man, is you're a guy that grinds and hustles, but you give God all the glory. You're a faithful man. And I value that as well. So I love that about you. And I got to challenge you a little bit, man. Preparation meets God's timing, but your work ethic speeds up God's timing. And I think that you have definitely been able to do that, man, just through building the needed political relationships that you've done, bringing the thought leadership, and just being patient, man. And you've done a great job with this. So I'm excited to really dive into more of what that, just the transition units theory is for Ambitious Vet, that maybe being like, what is that? How can I leverage it to be successful? So that's going to be exciting. But before we dive into that topic, I want to dive into your transition story. All right. So we all hit landmines, brother, when we get out of our respected branches, right? And some are different from others, right? But you have a unique perspective as an African-American man. So what were some of the landmines that you hit during your transition, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, man, good question. And I appreciate that question, because in the end of the day, as to help vets, we got to be able to share our stories. And my transition wasn't easy, man. I had gotten used to being able to control the crowds to now having to fit into the crowd. So just that transition of mentality alone was rough because, but the thing is, I was fortunate because, like I said, I'm a man of faith. My father's a minister, my mother's an evangelist missionary. So they always kept me in their prayers, and I always had different bishops, and they, to this day they say, hey, Cornelius, we still have you on our prayer list. You've been on our prayer list for 20 years. We call your name on prayer every week. I'm like, well, I appreciate it. Keep praying for me. I need everything I can get. I need every prayer I can get.
Right. That's great.
And so, so that's first and foremost. And then I look at my support system, right? because I have a strong support system that ride or die for me. You know what I mean? And they stick me right. I'm right, wrong, whatever. You know, they'll pull me to the side and say, "Hey, you was wrong, man." They're not gonna be polite about it. Those are my type of friends.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
don't be polite. If I'm wrong, hey man, you messing up. Go fix yourself. You know what I mean? And so, you know, and part of my transition was that, you know, that's what kept me straight. Because, you know, like I said, I'm a vet. You know, I've seen some combat experience, you know, as far as being serving our Iraq Cert 3 tours, you know. So, you know, certain things, you know, we all have our trigger points, man. And, you know, I'm no different than anybody else. You know, I've been diagnosed with PTSD myself. So, you know, I'm not different than any other vets who's been diagnosed with that, you know. And so with that, it's just one of those things that I want to help other vets who's been, you know, going through these things and realize that, because it's just one of those things, man. It's just like you don't know you have it until it kicks in, right?
Right.
And it's like when you get that trigger point, it's like boom, you go from 0 to 100. That was my experience, you know. And so with that, you know, and my friends, my corner, man, my family, they were just like, look, man, you're really screwing up. You know, fix yourself. And you know, you got to the point where some of us are like, what, man? So it was just that, because then I went to school, right? I went to school. And so then on top of that, I'm in class with a lot of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, right? And I'm a 30-year-old man. And we're in class now, we're peers. Right? So I'm peers with guys who are fresh out of high school, you know, fresh, you know, a lot of them still live with their parents.
Yeah.
You know, and here I've been in combat 3 times. You know, and we're classmates, we're peers, but we're really not peers because of the life experiences. You know what I mean? So I had to learn to adjust to that as well, and drop the military lingo, because again, that a lot of the military lingo, a lot of people find it aggressive, threatening, you know, and things of that nature as well. You know, so it was just one of those things where, you know, as vets, we joke a certain kind of way. As vets, you know, that other people tend to find not politically correct. And so I had to learn to, you know, make these adjustments. You know what I
mean? Yeah. Political correctness is a big thing in the civilian world, depending on where you're at. Especially, I'm sure playing in the political arena. I mean, that was probably a big thing for you as well, brother. Getting those doors opened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so getting those doors. Matter of fact, it was a transition units theory that did it. You know, that got me in. And you know, like I said, we talked about this before. And you know, like I said, I got in because I was struggling trying to find work. You know, I couldn't find a job. I was an undergrad. You know, living off student loan checks. You know, and my GI Bill, because no one would hire me for work, man. You know, and I have this impressive resume. As a sergeant, I was, you know, in the E7 slot as sergeant of the guard, you know, maintaining and protecting the lives of 11,000 people in the combat zone, and no one wants to hire me, not even for security. But yeah, I have a higher security level and experience. You know, I have executive protection level, you know, experience, and no one wanted to hire me. And I was just like, what's wrong with my resume? You know, or what's wrong with me even? You know, and I'm an undergrad using my GI Bill. But at the same time, you know, it pays so much of your bill, then you have to find other resources. And if you can't find a job, you know, you're kind of like, well, what do I do? And so, you know, then you have that frustration because you're used to being financially stable. Then you're like, oh man, I'm struggling to pay bills. So I started, my goal was to be an entrepreneur from Jump Street, but I had a different plan of doing it. Because I wanted to get go to school while working. To pay my bills, and then, you know, wing away from the job market, you know, as my business succeeded. But it didn't work that way for me. I went straight into I wouldn't say piggybacking, but, you know, working with my mom. My mom's an artist, and she was like, well, you know, she has 5 kids with her and my parents. They've been married for 42 years, and my grandparents have been married for 70 years. And so my mother was like, I want to, you know, she's always been an artist, but she really just hadn't pursued her dream like that. So she said, I'm going to pursue my dream, you know. And I said, well, Mom, since you made all these sacrifices, you and Dad made all these sacrifices for us, well, I'm going to help you get your name out there. And so I'm going to work for you. And she said, great. And then she didn't. And so I started doing the business strategy and the business side for her artwork. And she, you know, and let her focus on the paintings and, you know, because she does oil paintings, acrylic paintings, stuff like that. So, and, you know, so we started off, and this is in, you know, New Orleans, Louisiana, you know, and and we go down there and we test the market on the business side. You know, we take her work and we, put up some prints and we test the market and see how that works. And then we started what we call the a tribute to veterans. And this was my idea, and she went with it. She loved it. And I said, what I want to do is a tribute to veterans, but from her perspective as a wife, because my dad is retired Army. He's a retired staff sergeant out the Army. And then I served in Iraq and my brother served in Iraq. So as a wife and mother of veterans, we want to do this art exhibit from your perspective. You know, and so we went to I believe the Algiers neighborhood, which is like a poor neighborhood, and we partnered with the VFW. And so we was able to provide some food and the art for the local community. And so that was the first one we held. But then the second one, I started thinking about, more or less what was going on with the veterans. And so what we did was we scaled it, the second one, and at the in 2017, which was the second one, we scaled it at the Oklahoma State Capitol. And it was right there in the tundra, right there next to the House of Representatives where they meet, the State House, and right there next to the State Senate. So we're right there in the middle. So anytime they walk in to go to their respective chambers, they had to come around the artwork, and see the art, which was, it's pretty strategic that we were able to do that. And we did it for the Veterans Day weekend for this 100-year anniversary as being a state in the United States. So we got that history mark there as well.
It's huge.
And so what we did is I got with some of my buddies, one of my buddies, he was, what we did was a program with the art. We had a list of names to honor. I think we honored about 300 vets, but our goal is to honor 100,000 vets. So she's still getting names because this is an ongoing series. And so we take our art to honor to the vets. And in doing so, we did a ceremony. We gave some certificates and awards to folks who served in, who worked with the VA, but also served in the military. That was right. They had to serve in the military as well as work with the VA. And then we, gave some certificates and awards to some other folks who had served as well. And so what I did was I've been thinking about this transition units theory. And so I decided to give a speech on it at the Honor Our Heroes art exhibit and award ceremony for my mom, artist Lorna Renee. And one of my buddies who I served in Iraq with, he recorded and put it on Facebook. And there you go. Things just started taking off, man. Just simple recording and it just took off.
Right.
And so, yeah, man.
It's super legit though, man. Ambitious Vet, I've watched it a couple of times. It's really, really powerful talk. And what I love about Cornelius is he's very dynamic, as you're already starting to pick up on. Very genuine, very authentic, but also is a principle and value-driven man, going back to family and having, just making that selfless service, which all of us are known for, to help have, your mother have a voice or build her company or like build a platform for her to be heard, man. I got to give you man points on that, man. That's huge. That's good stuff. So tell us more about transition unit theory. What inspired you to develop this and actually start packaging it as like a proposal?
I just looked at my transition, man, to be honest with you. I was getting out the military and I didn't really have a lot of time to prepare because, in the Army, we have the CQ shifts, charge of quarters, which is 24 straight hours guard shift. And I was going out because my unit had got orders to go back overseas. So that would have been my fourth tour if I wasn't, ETSing out. And so in doing so, it was just like, man, I didn't get a chance to really prepare like the way I wanted to. I feel like, or I should have been prepared because I was constantly still working for the Army. You know what I mean? And so, and I started thinking like, well, the Army gave us a chance to the transition to become soldiers, right? We had to, unlearn the civilian tactics, the civilian way of thinking, and start becoming soldiers.
Right.
And so, and I was thinking, well, how come we didn't have a process like that helped us come from soldiers to become civilians?
Right.
And I was like, okay. Then I started thinking about it. I was like, all right. And I started thinking about the PTSD. And we come back from deployments, they did the surveys, but we know if you check yes on anything, you have to stay in country longer, deal with more, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, man, I just want to hear him go home. I don't want to deal with these folks, And so I started thinking about all of that. And I just said, man, what if we just actually work on some things where we can be more proactive, where the soldiers are not being punished for or being flagged. We know what being flagged is. Where you're not being flagged for, mental health issues and things of that nature. Especially since you head out the door, especially since you're leaving, you know what I mean? Now, if your unit is going overseas and you're supposed to go overseas with your unit and you're having mental health issues, a flag is just perfect. No weapon, supervision. That's perfect. But if you're not going to a combat zone or to a live fire training or something, you know what I mean? Then I say, well, it doesn't make sense to put a flag there if they're going to Fort Living Room, right? So let's prepare them for Fort Living Room, and let's prepare soldiers for corporate America, because corporate America is nothing like the military. Corporate America is, it's just nothing like that. So I wanted to so that's what I was thinking, like, let's create more time for these guys to actually prepare. And because, like I said, we know the 6 Ps, you know what I mean? And they that's very true. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And
Yep.
so, and I want soldiers to succeed. What's the purpose, right? No one goes to serve their country to come home to be homeless, to be jobless, right? Not to be able to provide for your family, to have your reputation destroyed. You don't do that. You serve so you can build your reputation and take advantage of different opportunities and things of that nature. So I want to make sure those opportunities are there. And so, I mean, you have to use a political route. Yes, that's true. But at the same time, that's what makes it the fight. It's because the fact is we have to educate and let these folks know that, especially with PTSD, because people just don't understand it. And the people are really starting to get a better understanding of what it is. But even as an individual, you don't know until bang, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so,
for sure.
Correct. And so I've always been sensitive to people with mental health issues and stuff like that, or disorders, because my older brother, has autism. So he doesn't speak, he doesn't sense danger, stuff like that. So I spent majority of my childhood, like hundreds of times I could have been killed or I could have died, because he'll run out in the middle of the street and he was really fast. Like you wouldn't catch him, he was fast. And so a lot of times he'll run on the street, we'll run right behind him without even looking and have to push him out the way so he won't get hit by a car.
You must have ran a 300 PFT.
Oh man,
I'm just kidding, but
I really did.
I mean, I read that about you too, man. I mean, it seems like your whole life has just been about like serving, serving a bigger purpose, serving your family. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, you're always up to something bigger than yourself, which I think is super important when you get out. And I think that's how you actually outgrow. This is just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth, ambitious vet. But I mean, it's, I feel like that's how you outgrow the mental illness, right? Because I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, right? Not quite PTSD, but I was able to grow outside of it because I was always thinking outside of this diagnosis, right? Which I hear what you're saying. So it sounds like also what you're saying, Cornelius, is that the immediate transition tools have a shelf life. Like resume writing, interview prep, stuff like that. It doesn't solve the core issues. So, man, break down the transition unit theory and how we can apply it in our everyday lives.
All right. Well, like I said, we want to take a proactive approach. And so my concept is, and like I said, it's similar to where, I know they've done the warrior battalion system before, so it's similar to that, where I want to take the soldiers out the unit. But I want to start off with the combat vets who've been overseas, because like I said, you've been away from society, where, if you've been if you haven't deployed or been in combat, you still had that touch with society. So I want to start with combat vets first. And I wanted to give them a hands down, like, look, no punishment, anything with PTSD related. We just want to talk to you. Here's some trigger points. Here's some classes. This is your job. Come in your regular civies and grow your face hair. If you want to grow your face hair, whatever style you want to, get into. And focus on that. And then let's focus on your job, right? If you want, let's give them some time to get certifications before they leave out the military. Like, let's give them enough time to do that, because certifications are valuable,
right?
And if you're a combat vet, you don't have time to say, hey, let me do this cert while I'm in combat. So not everyone has that opportunity. You know what I mean? So I want to provide that opportunity, but at the same time, I want to leave those opportunities available, because I want to partner with the nonprofits and with the U.S. government and with corporate businesses. So that way we can take the start is while you're still in service, but then you want to can transition out the service and still have access to this help. Because like I said, if you ETS where you don't do the full 20, then you're completely cut off.
Right.
And I don't want that either, because again, you still served your country.
Right.
It's a voluntary service. So why are you being cut off from the help that you need when you volunteer to serve?
Mm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I like the certification standpoint for that, because sometimes you don't have the time to, based on your military schedule, it's very structured, you're being told what to do, pretty much 24 hours a day, right? Sometimes we don't have time to go to an online schooling, but certifications can be like on your own pace. So I still like that human capital development that you're talking about, to where they can build their economical value, right?
Correct.
It's huge. It's huge.
Correct. I also want to bring in too, like different internships, opportunities while you're still in service. So let's say, for instance, how you get your terminal leave and stuff like that. So even before that, when you're in these transition units, you can turn around and do the internship while you're still in service, right? Because you report there. And so the military still has credibility, because you still say, hey, a phone call or show up in person, but you're not there consistently as a soldier. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so you start to transition into the civilian way of thinking and the civilian way of life and the civilian schedule, right? So imagine, because internships are powerful, especially you talking about working with a corporate America and you have a college degree, your internship is valuable. Your internship determines if you make $40,000 a year or you make $90,000 a year.
Right.
And the internship is free. You don't make any money, but yet it still determines if you make $40,000 a year or if you make $90,000 a year.
Building the relationships, right? It's huge.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because if you have a letter of recommendation from a congressman that you work for as an internship, compared to someone who will, let's say, is a teacher, right? You're walking in with that letter of recommendation from that senator or that congressman, where they have connections. Let's say, you know what, I'm gonna hire you for your connections. Well, in the military, we miss out on those connections because we haven't had the opportunity, especially while deploying multiple deployments, like myself. When I came home from my third deployment, I hadn't even hit my 6-year mark in service yet. So I had served 3 combat tours and hadn't even had 6 years of service yet.
That's crazy, brother. Wow.
And the Army, we're doing a year to year and a half tours. So to say I put in that much work, and then that'll include training, plus my basic and AIT. So soldiering, it was a 24/7 lifestyle, not a job. You know what I mean? And so with that, I said, man, imagine if we had soldiers with the opportunities to be prepared for the civilian world, because that's the shocker. I talked to a lot of guys, and me and one of my buddies were talking about this, and we were saying that some people get out and they're like, man, I just can't wait to go to In-N-Out or Whataburger, the In-N-Out Whataburger conversation, right?
Yeah, I remember those. Those are great.
Yeah, right. I prefer a Whataburger myself because I'm from Texas, you know what I mean? But
my wife and I just moved to Dallas and Fort Worth area. So Whataburgers are everywhere, man. So everyone's just like, have you had them? I'm like, every time I hang out with my wife's father, we're always going and getting a Dr. Pepper slushie, and because Dr. Pepper's headquarters are out here, and then a Whataburger. So I'm well versed in that culture, man. But it's like a cult out here.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. People love it. Whataburger is awesome, man. Matter of fact, that's how me and my dad used to buy when I was in middle school, right? You play Saturday football games, and I think it was like 7th grade.
Yeah.
And so he'll take me to the school before the game, and we'll stop and give me one of those the chorizo or the sausage taquitos, because they were like 25 cents back in the day or something like that. You know what I mean? So I get like 2, he'll get 2, and then he'll drop me off to go play my football game that morning. And that was our ritual. That was something that we would do, every weekend. And so yeah. So
getting that protein in, man. Come on.
What's that?
Getting that protein. That's good. And those carbs. Come on.
That's right. Need them. So, especially because, like I said, we'll leave early, like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. The game don't start till about 11. So that's 3 hours. Like, nah, get you something to eat. So I have my orange juice for my vitamin C.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Nice, man. So anything else you want to just kind of sum up around the transition unit theory? Anything else around that? How can an ambitious vet go and find out more about that before we kind of transition more into your brand new book?
Okay. Like I said, right now, I'm still building it out. So I'm still building relationships and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And and so I'm looking to get as much help as I can, connect with as many people as I can. And I'm grateful for the Vettys for their opportunity to spread the message, because now they're introducing me to more people. So that way I can take it to the federal level as needed. Because like I said, I did present it at the Arizona House Military and Veterans Affairs Committee, and they loved it, man. They loved the idea down there, and they were like, it's a wonderful idea. And so, especially because it's coming from a vet who served as an NCO. And so, like I said, they just thought it was awesome, man. And, I just put it out there to see what people think, and people have been responding to it. I got so much positive feedback. And so it's just, I just appreciate it. I was just being sincere with a thought process, and it's grown. Like literally, it was literally like I just gave a speech about it and said, man, imagine if we had this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then people are like, yeah, man, that's really for real. I wish, and people would come to me like retired sergeant majors, and they came to me and said, man, I love your idea. I wish I had more time to prepare when I got out, but I was working with the unit the whole time. And these are 30-year sergeant majors,
Right.
And so if they felt that, imagine a guy who served as an E5, you know what I mean? So, or even an E1, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things, man. It's just the fact that my idea was just an idea where I looked at what I do. This is what I do. I teach my daughter this. I teach this to people all the time. And I said, there's 4 things that successful people do that unsuccessful people will never do. Right? And the first thing is they identify a problem. The second step is they create a solution to the problem. The third step is they create a system for the solution to the problem. And then the fourth step is they learn how to monetize the system for the solution to the problem. And I think that's very powerful way of looking at life. I live my life that way. I look at in that process when I think about things. And because again, life is going to be full of problems. But the thing is, who's going to bring solutions, and what is the value of your solution? And how can you test your solution if it's really a legit solution or not? And so that's how I look at things. And that's my mentality going into the transition unit theory was, I seen a problem. This is the problem that I experienced. And I started asking other people, and they're like, yeah, man. I said, well, I think this would be a good solution. So, okay, cool. I said, well, let's think of a system, and then let's turn around and let's fund the system so we can, perpetuate it. So right now that's where I'm at. I'm at the part where I'm creating the system portion of it, because I've been just getting awareness out and stuff like that. So I would love to get as much help as possible. Like I said, in my website, mr-maxwell.com, because it is it's a very important subject. I would love to have the VAs help, and I would love to have the military, the DOD involved in helping me with this and stuff like that, and even to share my ideas with them. Right. Even if they would take and say, hey, man, what can we do? I would love to sit there and share my ideas with the DOD. So, because like I said, this is to help others. And I'm the type of person where I believe it's my calling, it's my anointing to be able to help as many people as numerous as the stars in the sky, to help as many people for generations to come, and that's the type of legacy I want to leave behind as well. It's like, man, that dude, yeah, he helped me. And it's 100 years from now, it's like, yeah, his words helped me, or his actions helped me.
Yeah. I feel that. That's good, man. That's good. And I love that framework, and I love that simplicity to filter anything you're trying to problem solve on, man, because some of us are just like, well, how do I solve this damn problem? Yeah, bring the solution to it, but I bring the solution, but how can we solve the problem ongoingly through generations? And that framework allows you to have a process, I guess, to really deliver the impact that you want to make ongoingly through other people. So I acknowledge you for that, man, because it's not easy to simplify your thoughts and how you go about life. So that's huge. One thing I would ask is, are you connected with the DoD Skill Bridge program yet?
I'm not. I actually haven't heard of them yet. So I appreciate
Oh my gosh. We're going to do that, man. We're going to accelerate this thing. I'm going to add that process in there, man. I'm going to help you. So
all right.
I'll make that introduction right when we get off here, man. But yeah, that's it's aligned right with what you're doing, and they're missing transition units theory and more thought leadership around what they're doing. So I think you could really advocate and help a lot of veterans through that program, or active duty officers and non-enlisted in that program. So I'll make sure I hook you up with that, brother, man. So anything else around that before we kind of dive into this brand new book, man? I'm excited about it.
Oh, yes. Like I said, just go to the reach out to me. I want to make sure people reach out to me, man. That's the most important to me, man, is people reach out to me. They, like I said, they do my website, my social media, Cornelius J. Maxwell. You'll find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like I said, I'm approachable, man. I respond to my messages when I don't blow people off. So,
yeah.
And so, like I said, reach out to me. Let's talk, share your ideas with me. And I want to be able to scale. Because like I said, I believe that, are you familiar with the author, John C. Maxwell?
Oh man, that is a preacher's way to leadership, man. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And it's a good play, because his initials are J.C. Maxwell and mine are C.J. Maxwell.
Come on.
So it's kind
of you got the African American sprinkle onto it, brother, man. So you got to bring it. So, brother, tell us more about this Unapologetically I Am a Man book, man. I know that this thing's like really flying through Amazon. It's becoming very popular. Tell us about the book, why you wrote it, and what's the inspiration behind it?
All right. Well, it was around my time I was finishing undergrad, right? I got my bachelor's in political science. All right, I served in the military and went to school, got my degree. And so in doing so, I was like, man, but my entire life, I always wanted to write a book, but I just didn't know about what. Right. And I was researching Martin Luther King Jr.'s last protest, I Am a Man. And I was like, man, I was like, man, why did he end up dying when he said, I'm a man? You know what I mean? And I started saying like, man, why is that? He had the whole I have a dream speech, that was very powerful. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, but no one attacked him on that. But when he said, I'm a man, they say, nah, he has to go. And I said, why is that? And so I started researching, right? But before I started researching, I just wrote a poem about how it inspired me, which I titled Unapologetically, I Am a Man, which is what the book is titled after, that particular poem. And I'm going to quote it a little later, but, at the moment, I'm still describing the book, right? But in doing so, it was just like, man, so I started researching, right? Like, why is it that when he said I'm a man was the issue? And so I started researching. I went back to slavery, researching the slavery, and I started researching the buck breaking system where they take the black man out the family structure. And I started seeing all the way up to the 1960s where they were saying we'll provide you welfare if you take the man out the family structure. And I started researching like, man, what does the man bring to the family structure that he has to be out of it to perpetuate these systems? And I started researching that the man brings to the family structure that the woman doesn't bring is the family birthright, and the birthright is based upon your identity, your father, your forefathers, right? It's economical because you pass along inheritance, to sustain, assets to sustain, right? Then I looked at it, they're spiritual. And then I also looked at their political. So when I talk to a lot of people in the Black community, they say, man, politics ain't our thing. And I'm saying, no, it is, because it is a birthright. You know what I mean? And right. So if you have your ancestors have political influence, you have a birthright to that. Like some kings became kings because they inherited the right to be king, from their fathers or a male heir or male relative. Right. And yes. So I'm teaching the value of that, because that is what happened in America is, the Black community was stripped of the birthright. When you strip the name away, that's an identity. He's like, so who are you? So when society says, oh man, these guys are just a bunch of thugs and vicious animals. But what you're saying is they lack a birthright, because a lot of times they say, oh, go back to Africa. So you say, I don't have a birthright here. But at the same time, I don't have that birthright in Africa either. So it becomes, you're a lost group of people here. I mean, America is here, the land of opportunity, equality. What makes us human is our ability for a birthright. That's what makes us human. Say, my dad did this and he passed it along to me. Yeah, my forefathers passed this along. And it's something that, when people ask you, they say, what is your name? And they pay attention, they listen, like, what's your name? Who are your people? See, that goes back to your birthright. They want to know, who are your people? And so I started breaking down, the Bible, because the Bible is I'm a believer of the word, and stuff like that, and so the Bible itself is the moral and ethical doctrine of this nation. And it says when you do wrong by others, you must atone for it. So I started researching atonement and stuff. And then I started realizing, well, when you read the Bible from beginning to end, you never read the Bible. In this one sentence, I can explain it to you. It is God's birthright to man, which is forgiveness. Right? And so when we look at God's birthright to man, which is forgiveness, because from the Old Testament, it breaks down God's level of forgiveness for man all the way through the New Testament. You see what I mean?
Right.
And so by doing so, I said, that's an amazing perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I looked at it and said, what is forgiveness? Right? Because we've all done wrong to others. I'm not above reproach. You know what I mean? I've done wrong. Right? And then others have done wrong by me. You know what I mean? It goes both ways. So then I had to understand, what is forgiveness? Well, forgiveness is come to the point where we got to create systems that heal the victim, but also establish redemption for the perpetrator. Right? Because if the victim never heals, there's no forgiveness. If the perpetrator who's done wrong isn't given the opportunity to redeem themselves, they're always living in that shame. You see what I mean? So
it's a mental, spiritual thing, emotional thing. And keep going, brother. I'm like processing it all right now.
All right, good.
It's good. It's good.
And so I break it down because my whole concept of the book is a poetry book. And so it's a bunch of different poems, but it's based along the lines of this concept. Right. And so what I'm doing is, and like I said, this is for everybody. This book's for everybody. Right. And doing so, when you break down this concept, I break down a system which America can atone for racism. Right. Which requires the Black race to have its own birthright here in America, which makes everyone equal because everyone has a birthright based upon the pride. And so the first thing the first phase of it's a 5-phase plan. And so phase 1 is political influence, right? Because, the Black community has never had fair representation politically. So if we get to a point to where we can develop fair representation in the political system, we can take that to end up to phase 2, which is economic stability. So we can invest, let's say, like additional SBA programs, loans, grants to these to Black small business owners in the Black communities. Well, now they're creating jobs in the Black community, right? So now you have more people working in the community. And in doing so, that means you're creating more taxpayers. You create more taxpayers, we're eliminating this debt that we have in America, right? And like I said, it's sound economics because everybody wants to work. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be able to provide. You know what I mean? And so I think it's fair to provide those opportunities in that community there because those opportunities are not there. You go into a lot of Black communities or urban communities, that say those are ran down as a bunch of abandoned buildings. There's no economic stability there. And so, of course, when you have poor people in a certain area, poor people do what poor people do no matter who you are. Poor people are desperate. Desperate people do desperate things, right? So here what I'm saying is I'm eliminating that because now we're creating work there, right? So the third phase is education, healthcare, because these are paid by taxpayer dollars. Well, now you have more taxpayers, which also drives up the national GDP. Well, now the Black community can determine the quality of education and healthcare, and like I said, the quality of it. Right, because it comes from the taxpayer dollars.
Right.
And so which leads to the fourth phase, which is home and land ownership. Right. And so because now you have the consistent work, you're able to qualify for home loans and property loans. And like I said, again, it's sound economics because think about it. You can have a foreigner from, let's say, Russia or anywhere, right? They can buy property here in the U.S., never set foot in the U.S., and still own land and property here. You see what I mean?
That pisses me off. I got to be completely honest, man. You know what I mean? Versus, versus people, no matter the color, that were born in the United States. That kind of pisses me off. And then we wonder why we have to, you know, I can't say everything I want to say because we got a global audience here, right?
Yeah.
Ambitious Vet. We got armed forces of all over the country. And thank you for listening to this. But yes, I mean, I think there needs to be some kind of solid economical infrastructure for all parties within the United States first, so we can do commerce from within. And, we'll see if that system consistently evolves, man. You know what I mean? But I just acknowledge you for having the courage to write this book, man, because it seems like it's like, not attacking is not the right word. That's like that aggressive Marine Corps language that I bring out sometimes, but it's really shaking up the, just the mentality around this whole cultural construct, social construct of the nation. And, I just acknowledge you for having the courage to write it, man, because that's what ambitious vets do, man. We stand in the midst of chaos and we, we create solutions to big problems that move things forward. So I acknowledge you for that, brother. Is that book available on your website?
It is. It's also available on Amazon as well. So
nice.
And so let me also get to the point where I can finish up, because I said 5 pages. I gave the first 4.
Do you think?
All right. So like I said, so we talked about the first 4, which is the home ownership and land ownership, right? So which goes to the 5th phase, which is the birthrights. Now, because now we're established for all Americans the opportunity for a name with pride and honor, right? You don't have to say, oh man, let's look at a lot of entertainers in that are Black, right? They said, man, I had nothing, so I had to sell drugs to make a way, and then they use music and scale from there. They then had to drop the lifestyle, and because now they're successful. Well, again, that goes to show you don't have a birthright. So if you have a birthright, it says, I have a name of pride. You have a certain, my family name is something. You know what I mean? That carries you a long way. And if you're familiar with the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, he said one thing that stuck with me, and he said that there's nothing more sweeter or personal for a person to hear the sound of their own name.
Absolutely.
And so to strip someone's name from them, then now they don't have an ID. So now we have to develop a different name with pride, so that so the Black community can feel that pride, because the Black community can't relate to that. Because when you hear the name, your name is related to being second class. You know what I mean? So I want to change that stigma. Right. And so I look at it then. Now you can look at the pride, because now you can pass along the business ownership, which is, again, more pride, economic wealth, inheritance, and then also political, because now you have the political influence. So all these things that are considered birthrights are all intact. And I think, and it creates a fair playing field, for the Black community and for America as well, because, again, we're all Americans. So I believe all Americans should have all these things in place. And so that's what the book is doing, is challenging the way to think this way. Do I attack some of do I attack some of the things around racism? I do. I attack how I feel about it. I do. That's just being straightforward. Please. I do attack those issues.
Yeah.
And, because I want you to see, feel, and also want you to discuss it and see it from my perspective.
Of course.
Right? And I want that to be valuable, and I want people to see how valuable that is. And so a lot of people are seeing that when they read the book, and they're like, man, wow. And because the book isn't just saying, like, I'm attacking you. It's more like we're talking conversational. So you're reading is like, oh, okay. Like I said, I worked on it on and off for 5 years because I want to make sure I hit the audience just right. You know, so I didn't want to come out there as like aggressive. Like, man, you should feel bad if you're not Black. No, you know what I mean? I didn't do that, but at the same time, I want you to feel my issue, my pain with it. Right. And then I said, now let's work with that and move forward. And that's the thing. I said, let's move forward. Right. And how do we move forward? And so this is why I propose my solutions and this way, and because I don't say it directly in the book. The message is all in the book. But when I do my interviews and people ask me, this is how I explain it. So now when you read the book, you understand it from this perspective, you get a better understanding of the book. And so
you get the context. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. That's great. That's great, brother. I mean, again, just acknowledge you for stepping up, writing that book, for just both, anybody that's listening to this, all colors, right? Races and stuff like that, to just educate them because it is a real problem. I mean, all you got to do is turn on the news for 5 minutes. I don't last more than 10 minutes though, man. I can't watch the news more than 10 minutes, but that 10 minutes, it tells you everything that's going wrong with the world. And then it says everyone's opinion
Correct.
around that, right? Interpretation of it and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So I just acknowledge you for bringing such a timely thought leadership tool, man, to the world from a veteran's perspective. So are you looking for like keynotes, speaking opportunities on this subject as well? And if you are, where and how can the Ambitious Vet Network support you with that?
Great. Yeah, like I said, I'm looking at you can reach me on my social media, like I said before, my website, mr-maxwell.com. And yes, I'm doing like keynote conferences, training. So, I want to get more involved, even with the, like with the military, do like the sharp training on the subject, 'cause I'm scaling that part to like a race relations trainer is what I wanted, is where I'm developing that way, that way I'm bringing everyone together, because again, I seen Morgan Freeman, Morgan Freeman, he had said the issue on race, he said, if we stop calling each other black and white and call each other Americans, we fix this issue, you know, which is a solid perspective, but then it's been ingrained for so long, it becomes second nature to think this way, right? So we have to take the time to break it down and say, we're all Americans, we're all Americans, we're all Americans. Even when I do my political speeches and stuff, so I always say at the end, may God bless you, and may God bless all our states, united as one nation, America. And I always, that's my slogan, that's my tagline, right? At the end. Because I believe that we can unite. So with these messages here, I believe that with this message here, I believe that we can, because again, not all people are evil, not all people are, but then you have certain people that are, and so we want to unite to help them change their way of thinking. So, and because again, this is an American problem, and we're Americans, we serve this country, we want what's best for America, especially as we the ones who made the sacrifice for our lives on the line.
Yep. Yeah. No, and I'll speak on that and then we'll kind of transition to kind of like the last segment of the show. But, brother, I mean, I was raised conservative in the Midwest, St. Louis, Missouri, stuff like that. And I think my military experience opened my perspective to diversity, right? And I think just coming from a military veterans perspective of being in that diversity, right? Of all ethnicities, man. Some of my boys were from Puerto Rico, a part of gangs, and we solved missions together, fought wars together, and got hazed together when we were privates and BFC. And it's just that trial and tribulation, man, just eliminates the color in the military, right? So that would be my concluding thoughts on that. And I would kind of throw the mic back over to you. Is there any concluding thoughts around, unapologetically, I am a man?
All right. Well, I can quote the poem real quick first, and then
Please, brother.
Then close it out.
Yeah.
All right. So, unapologetically, I'm a man. I am made of bone, tissue, flesh, and blood, thus classified biologically to the mammal kingdom. Yet my stature is upright, and my posture is strong. It keeps me grounded through treacherous adversity. My voice is deep. When I speak, it roars with authority. Classification by pigmentation has labeled me a minority, restricted from health and prosperity, to quench the sinister desires of the majority. But let this declaration be understood with clarity, that I was created in the image of the Most High, uniquely with originality. So I can never be stereotyped due to the authenticity of my individual personality, because I'm proud to be the man God made me to be, unapologetically. So that's unapologetically, I'm a man. The poem itself, which I titled the book after, which was inspired by MLK's last protest, I am a man. And like I said, man, I just felt that, just like we're all human. So what makes us different? You tell me my skin color makes me different from everybody else? No, I'm an authentic individual. You're an authentic individual. The next person's an authentic individual. You know, we're all there'll never be a second Cornelius Maxwell. My DNA code ensures that. You know, there'll never be another Chris Hoffman. Your DNA code ensures that. You know what I mean? Whoever's listening, there'll never be another you, because your DNA code has never be replicated. You know what I mean? So we're all authentic in one way or another. And since we're all authentic, how come we're not treated as originals, but we're treated as subjects or carbon copies to be classified, you know, right? Into different variables and classifications. And when in all actuality, like I said, we're all originals. You know, we're all an original piece. So, you know, that's me putting the art value to it, you know, the art spin. But
brother, you are very interesting, man. I love all the work that you're doing. And you know, I was going to transition into the 3 gold grenades, but Ambitious Vet, you know, if you've been listening to this for longer than 15 minutes, you're going to catch well more than 3 golden grenades. I don't even think we need to do that. But you know, Cornelius, man, where can an Ambitious Vet go and find out more about you and connect with you further around further opportunities with you?
All right. Personally, like I said, hit my website, mr-maxwell.com. You know, same social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on those as well. But like I said, man, if you want to send me an email, info@mr-maxwell.com. I'm available. I answer. And like I said, I'm a people's person. I love to build relationships and get things done because like I said, like I said, according to John Maxwell, I was telling you about, you know, he had that quote that said, "The number 1 is simply too small of a number to achieve greatness." You can't do anything alone. You need people. So I love building relationships because I learn from people, I grow from people. You know, people educate me, which help me become better, help others. I'm inspired by others, and people say they're inspired by me. You know, so like I said, it's a give and take. So without others, I'm less inspired. They're less inspired. You know what I mean? And without others, I'm less educated. So with that, and like I said, it's just like I said to me. So reach out to me because, like I said, I'm a big relationship builder. I'm all about building relationships. I like being around people, interacting with people. I love dissecting your brain and sharing wisdom and knowledge and things of that nature. So reach out to me. I can learn from everybody. So
it's great. Well, Cornelius, I just acknowledge you for just coming on to the show, brother. I mean, you are a guy with tons of wisdom, but also a shit ton of courage, man, to just continue to do things that may be just a little bit against the grain, but you know, people are passionate about what the work that you're doing, man. So Ambitious Vet, all the links will be in the show notes below. Make sure you get connected with Mr. Maxwell here himself. Cornelius, man, thanks for joining the show, brother.
Yes, thank you for having me, brother. I really appreciate it.
The Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.
Ambitious Vet, before you go, make sure to go check out Combine Arms and Combat Flip-Flops partnership. Their campaign that they've created, a good cause for our souls, literally. They're introducing only 200 what they're calling a limited edition Combine Arms Flopperators. 15% goes towards Combine Arms' efforts, which is an innovative technology company based in Houston, Texas, that's literally accelerating the time it takes from requesting resources as a military service member, veteran, or military family member to the time that they get the resource. Really innovative stuff. 15% of the proceeds go towards their mission, and 15% of it goes towards the Ambitious Vet Network's mission as well. One thing I failed to mention at the first segment, at the beginning of the show, is if you enter an AMV network at your discount code, you'll get 24% off of your Combine Arms Floperator. So make sure you do that, and make sure you fuel this cause and other causes that are fueling your mission.